Chris Lundy. I am the news editor for Jersey Shore Online and Toms River Times. Tonight we're going to hear from all three of the Republican primary candidates for the election that is June 4th. Each candidate is going to have a 3-minute time to give an introduction. At the end of the debate, we'll have a 3-minute time to do a conclusion. Throughout the debate, we're going to ask questions about things that matter to Toms River residents, questions about taxes, about development, about the things that matter the most to you. Each candidate will get a few minutes to talk about it, and then there'll also be time for the candidates to make rebuttals. At about halfway through the debate, we expect it to be about an hour and a half long. We're going to go to a short intermission. And at the end of the debate, there'll also be an opportunity for the candidates to ask a question of the other candidates. So without further ado, I think we will introduce our first candidate, Maurice Hill.
Thank you. My name is Mo Hill. I'm a lifelong resident of Ocean County. I'm a graduate of Rutgers University. I attended the University of Medicine and Dentistry of New Jersey. I joined the 1925 Ensign program for dental officers. After school, I spent 2 years on active duty and then served in the reserves till 2005 when I retired as the Deputy Director of the Navy Dental Corps at the rank of Rear Admiral, equivalent to a Major General. I'm also, after that, I went to the Township Council as a Ward 3 representative and as an at-large representative. I'm also on the Board of Trustees of RWJ Barnabas Community Medical Center Hospital. I'm on the SJTA as a commissioner. I'm also on the Ocean County Board of Health, and I'm a parishioner at St. Luke's Parish in Toms River, where I serve as a Eucharistic minister and a minister at the Chelsea Nursing Home. I'm married 46 years to my wife Roseanne. I have 3 married daughters, 6 grandchildren. 2 daughters live in Toms River, and 4 of my grandchildren also live in Toms River, go to the Toms River schools. My concerns going forward are to preserve open space. As a councilman, I've already taken steps to do some of that. We've purchased 70 acres of open space, preserved a horse farm. We redid the master plan and we eliminated any housing on the Route 9 corridor from North Maple down to the Garden State Parkway. We're also interested in keeping taxes low. For the last 3 years, we've had a 0 increase. We want to be financially conservative going forward. And finally, very important right now is the school funding. I'm heavily invested. I've got 4 grandchildren. I have a daughter who's a teacher in the system. And we need to make sure that that school system is properly funded. And that means returning the $2.7 million that's been cut from the budget. Thank you.
Thank you, Mo. Next we have Dan Rodrick.
I'm a public school teacher up in Middletown. I've been teaching for close to 20 years now. My wife and I, Diana, moved down to Toms River from North Jersey when we were first married. We've been living here for close to 17 years now. I have 2 children in Toms River Public Schools. My daughter Samantha is 7. My son Daniel's 11. I ran for council because I was very concerned about overdevelopment in North Dover and the impact it was going to have on taxes. After looking at my tax bill for a number of years, I saw that my taxes were constantly going up. So I decided to run for council to put a stop to high-density development and increasing spending that's driving up our taxes. However, it's limited as to what you can do unless you have a team of folks with you who have that same mission in mind, which is one of the reasons I've decided to run for mayor this year.
Thank you, Dan. Next we have Joe Coronato.
Thank you, Chris. My name is Joe Coronato. I'm an attorney. I'm married to my wife, Elaine. We have 2 adult children. I've been living in Toms River for over 45 years. I'm an attorney, as I said. Once I graduated law school, I clerked up in Passaic County. I then was fortunate enough to become a Deputy Attorney General for the Division of Criminal Justice. I was assigned to Atlantic County, where I did most of the wiretapping and trial work in Atlantic County. After spending about 10 years in the Attorney General's office, I then moved over to the Atlantic County Prosecutor's Office, where I was an assistant prosecutor there in major crimes for approximately 3 years. I went into private practice. Once I went into private practice, I became a member of my Toms River Daybreak Kiwanis Club and eventually the president. I moved on to the Ocean County College and was chairman of the foundation. I worked my way onto the Community Medical Center board and eventually became vice chairman of the hospital. I've been embedded in the community throughout my time in Toms River. All during that time period, I was also a municipal prosecutor for many towns within Ocean County, and the opportunity came up under Governor Christie to become the Ocean County prosecutor. I was blessed to be appointed the prosecutor in 2013. In those 5 years, I'm very proud of what we did, and I learned about one thing about becoming the prosecutor is that you can make a difference. Upon leaving the prosecutor, the opportunity came where I could run to be the mayor of Toms River. And I thought that this was another opportunity for me to make a difference, and that's why I'm in this race.
Thank you, Joe. First question is something that I think anytime I've ever talked to people, they always ask about, and that's taxes, of course. No surprise here, but I'm hoping that you can share with me and the viewers what your plans are to cut spending in the town. Now, once again, we're going to kind of go in that order. So each candidate's going to get about 2 minutes, and then after a round of that, then we'll go back and see if there's any rebuttals. So with that, we will start with Mr. Hill.
Thank you. First thing we're going to be looking at is as we have people retire or leave employment in Toms River, we do a desk audit to see if that position needs to be filled. We also may be doing a little deeper drill down in to see the TO, the table of organization for our town, whether we have people properly staffed, if we're overstaffed. We've had discussions on the Finance Committee about looking at our healthcare system. There's the opportunity to possibly self-insure with a catastrophic cap, which may present some opportunities for us to save money. We're also always looking to increase efficiencies. Several years ago, for an example, when we had our public works, we went to robo-cans, and we have automated garbage and automatic recycling. That's cut down on the number of people on the trucks and also saved us in workers' comp claims. And we're also looking into shared municipal services wherever it makes sense. So I think in those avenues, we can look to cut costs and save money.
Thank you. Mr. Rodrick.
Chris, well, one of the first things I'd like to do is I'd like to sub out the Legal Services Department. When you take a look at the Granby County nearby, most municipalities are spending about $300,000 to $350,000 a year. They take all their legal work, they farm it out to one company or one firm, and they save the taxpayer an awful lot of money. Here in Toms River, we have 3 attorneys and their secretaries. They cost us about $800,000 a year. And then on top of that, they farm out another $700,000 of work to their friends or to firms. And in addition to that, I want to do an operational audit. It's been a big hiring spree in Town Hall. Toms River now, under Kelleher, there's 44 confidential appointees. They're costing taxpayers $5.5 million a year. We need an operational audit. We need to take a look around. There are a lot of jobs that are unnecessary in that area, and we need to cut them. In addition to that, we need to shop for health insurance. We don't necessarily have to self-insure or be all that creative. Just going shopping, you can find an awful lot of savings. But this year, we refused to shop in the face of a $2 million increase in expenditures for health insurance. We didn't go out. We're paying $40,000 per family for a family plan now in direct taxes. It's unacceptable, and we owe it to the taxpayer. We have a fiduciary responsibility to go out and shop. So I believe we can accomplish that within 100 days and save somewhere between $5 and $7 million, which would allow us to continue to keep taxes flat while the governor continues to pressure our schools, cutting the way he is, hurting our schools. We're going to be losing programs. They're going to be forced to raise taxes. We need to keep taxes flat, and that's the way I intend to do it.
Thank you. Mr. Coronato.
Thank you, Chris. As a prosecutor for 5 years, I kind of learned that the one thing in government is that you have to really look down and drill down and turn over every stone. To me, what's really important is to make sure that you can stay within your budget, and if possible, you're going to cut. I think that you can't limit yourself. I think certainly health insurance is a big area, but I don't think that you just can look at health insurance. I think you have to look at the employment status of each of the offices, make sure that you have do a complete overview as to what they are, what they have. I think that initially, depending on it, we may have to look at a hiring freeze. The one thing that's important is that we have a lot of senior citizens and people that are struggling right now, and it's important not only to maintain a stable tax base, but also as best as possible to reduce taxes. I think it's going to be my job to get in there and turn over those stones, look every possible place that is possible to do that. I think that you can't limit yourself, and I think that you can't be. I think that you can't be restrictive. And what I mean by that is that you need to call in each of the supervisors, ask them to take a look at their budget, and demand that they tell you how they can cut back within each of the department. I think the burden needs to be put onto them, and understand that if they don't do it, we'll do it. The bottom line is to get the job done. I'm a person who can execute, and I believe I'm the best person for that job.
Thank you. Now, is there any time, now there's a minute or so, that if anyone else wants to add or make a rebuttal to something, that statement that was made, they can do so now. No? Anybody?
Well, I still didn't hear any details about Joe's plan. I'd love to hear some details. I know he had said he wants to turn over some stones, but specific details on how we're going to cut some spending and get taxes lower, and continue to maintain services. The areas that I mentioned, the shopping for health insurance, the operational audit of confidential appointees, these are things that wouldn't impact services at all, but there are real savings there. Would you also be willing to look in those areas as well?
I think I made it perfectly clear. I'm going to look in all areas. I don't think that there should be any protected areas. I think that we need to look at, there may be areas within the township that we need to privatize services. The bottom line is that everything should be on the table. I want to make sure that each of the supervisors know that we're going to go in and we're going to conduct a self-audit. There's not going to be any limited area. I think the bottom line is that I need to see whether or not we need 20 employees. If it can be done with 30 employees, I want to know why we can't do it with 30 employees. The bottom line is that I'm not going to let them set the budget. We're going to set the budget, and we're going to reduce taxes. That's my goal.
Okay, thank you. A little bit was touched on this already, but we want to talk about shared services. Toms River is one of the largest, I believe, maybe Lakewood's bigger, but Toms River is one of the largest municipalities in Ocean County. What can we do to either share other people's burden to cut off some of our costs, or have other people take some of the burden to also lower our costs? I want to start with Mr. Hill.
Well, we already have a couple of shared service agreements in Toms River. I know we share with Manchester the police computer systems. That's a shared service agreement that we have. We can look at other opportunities with some of the smaller communities to partner with them. We do some shared services when it comes to inspections around town when there's conflicts. So there are a number of opportunities where it makes sense. It may not always make sense, but we will investigate all of those areas and look forward. Like I said, where it makes sense in local communities next to one another, I think it makes a lot of sense to share services with some of the smaller towns. We might be able to pick up some of their costs and share it with them, and get reimbursed for services that we would provide to some of the smaller communities.
Thank you. Mr. Rodrick?
Yeah, I'm all for shared services, particularly when it comes to eliminating middle management. There's no reason to have building departments in every single township or municipal utilities authorities or any other layer of bureaucracy. We should be sharing services. We should be outsourcing when possible, and looking at that very, very closely, particularly when you look at the fact that New Jersey's property taxes are about 500% higher than they are in states like Florida and North Carolina, where they have countywide government. We need to do a much better job eliminating the fat, particularly middle management, and merging a lot of these departments.
Thank you. Mr. Coronato?
Well, I think it's very important to have shared services, and I think that we really need to look at the two areas that I think that of most concern. We all know that under Governor Murphy, a lot of money was taken away from the Toms River school system. It's clear to me that we ought to sit down with the school system and find out what kind of shared service that we can do with the school system to help their budget and also help the town. I think that that's something that we need to drill down on, and we need to look at, and I think we need to make happen. I think the other thing that we need to do is to find out if we can do shared services with the Ocean County government. This is the county seat. There's a way that we can do some shared services there. Those are the two big giants that are there that really are going to make a difference, and I think that those are conversations that I intend to have.
Excellent, thank you. I'm sure as you guys, but I guess if I should give an opportunity for anyone to offer a rebuttal, if anyone wants to? No? Okay, that's part of the plan. As I'm sure you guys are aware, Ocean County and Toms River is in the grips of a very disastrous opioid epidemic. What is your plan to address this? Mr. Hill?
I think we can work with the county prosecutor and also Ocean County Health Department has some programs. We also have a number of charity groups out in town. Hope Sheds Light is a very good organization. There are a number of non-governmental organizations that are involved in the opioid crisis. I think we also need to look at the manufacturers and drill down into that. There's been a lot of investigation as to whether they have been pushing prescriptions. I think you also need to look at the physicians. There needs to be physician education on prescriptions. They should prescribe for a limited amount of time just to control that pain and not give out a week or 2 weeks supply if 2 or 3 days can do.
Thank you. Mr. Rodrick?
Well, we need to bring everybody together, right? We have to have our schools, our police, our prosecutors. We need to bring in faith-based groups, and we need to raise awareness, educate kids, get into those schools, let them know that heroin, I mean, once or twice and you're hooked on this stuff and it changes who you are. And that's a big part of it right there. We need to have that outreach component. In addition to that, the Democrats in Congress need to give the president what he needs to secure the border. I mean, let's face it, I mean, that's the big problem here, is that this stuff just pours into our country, by the truckload. And that needs to be addressed, but it's a community issue. We need to work together. We need to work. We need to have a more robust recreation department, and we need our schools identifying kids at risk. I mean, every teacher in the high school can name 4 or 5 kids that they think need a little additional help or that are at risk, and we need to get those kids into programs that keep them busy so they're not out hanging out in the woods looking to get high. That's a community issue that we need to work on together. You got to bring everybody together. When I'm the mayor, I'm most certainly going to bring everybody together on that issue.
Thank you. Mr. Coronato?
Chris, very simply put, we need to save lives. This epidemic is killing our families, it's killing our way of life, and it's killing our children, and we can't let it kill our grandchildren. I made the dedication as the Ocean County prosecutor within 3 months of becoming a prosecutor. That was my priority, to save lives. I was acknowledged not only statewide but nationally for what the efforts I did. I reduced the death rate. Ocean County had the highest death rate not only in the state of New Jersey but on the whole East Coast. And after what I implemented in the Ocean County Prosecutor's Office, we were the only county in the state that had a 25% reduction. In fact, we were the only county in the entire state that had any reduction in the death rate. And after a reduction in death rate, the spray rate of doing Narcan went down 35%. We need to expand. We need to expose those programs and get those programs into Toms River. I certainly will work with Chief Mitch Little with regard to that, and I think that my record in this area is untouchable. We're going to save lives. I'm going to make a difference every single day that I'm the mayor of this town.
Thank you. Anyone like to add anything?
Well, I am curious, and I don't blame the prosecutor for this. Like I said, I believe this is a nationwide epidemic, but as far as the record is concerned, when the prosecutor took office, that year in 2012, there were 126 deaths associated with drug overdose. And in 2018, there were 217. That was a 72% increase. It's not the prosecutor's fault, but to say that we're winning this battle, I think, is disingenuous. We need to do more and bring people together, and we really need to stop this stuff from coming over the border. But again, as mayor, I have no control over that at all, but the Congress really needs to give the president what he needs.
Let me respond.
Of course.
Dan is the king of fake news. That's where we go here. The bottom line is I was acknowledged by R.W.J. Barnabas, by NJTV, by the Congress of the United States, and also by President Trump as leading the war on opiates. Are you kidding me? Come on, Dan.
No, I'm not kidding you. There were 217 deaths
Look
last
it.
year.
Look it.
Were there 217 deaths last year? And were there 126 when you took office? It's not your fault, but to say that you're beating this epidemic is not accurate. We need to do more as a community and as a country.
Dan, you're lying.
It's not about-
You're not telling the truth, okay? Look, you could scream and yell and try to get figures out there. It's pretty clear. If you go on the Attorney General's website, you're going to find that we were
That's
the
where I got
only-
those numbers, sir.
Well, then you don't know how to read. I beg
That's
to
where I got
differ.
those numbers, sir.
Okay, well, look.
217. And yes, you did have 1 year, there was a wait. Plus, now there are 700 Narcans administered each year, you know, and that kind of masks the depth of the crisis. I mean, people are being revived that often, and, you know, we need to do more.
Dan, honestly, I'm just going to say this. I'm going to let my record speak for itself. I'm just going to tell
Well,
you.
it's not your
this.
fault, sir. I'm just pointing out statistics. I didn't blame you, sir.
It's a very difficult situation. It affects all the families. But what I did as the Ocean County prosecutor was put together a system that was highlighted across the nation as being innovative and number one. I'm not sure where Dan gets his facts, but nobody's ever sure where Democrat Dan gets his facts. Bottom line is this. We need to address it here in Toms River. We need to make a difference in Toms River, and I intend as the mayor of Toms River to certainly put that as one of my main priorities.
Well, these statistics are on the state's website, sir. So
The
you
name of
could
that
you could check
program?
that as well.
The Blue Heart you're speaking of, right?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Blue Heart was initiated. We did three things. First off, I was the first county and the first police department in the state of New Jersey to do the Narcan. As a result of what we did in Narcan here, it spread throughout the entire country. Even President Obama brought me down to Washington, D.C. to find out how I was able to spread Narcan throughout law enforcement. After we did Narcan, we went to the opiate. We went to go into the hospitals, so when people were sprayed with Narcan, that then they can get treatment. That was a major change, and then after we did that, we then led to going to Blue Heart, where somebody can walk into a police station and get help. Our numbers are clear. We were the first county in the state to have a reduction, and we continue to do a reduction. But in case Dan doesn't remember that, okay, I haven't been the prosecutor for a little over 6 months.
Well, may I have one more minute? Or brief.
Okay, brief.
Like I said, I do not blame the prosecutor, former prosecutor, for the increase, but to say that we're beating this is just disingenuous. He has also continues to call me a Democrat, but the Republican club asked me to run with you, Joe. They asked me to run with you, and I told them no. You wanted me to run with you, and I didn't run with you. And now you're calling me a Democrat. I was screened by the Ocean County Republicans for the District 10 Assembly seat, and now you're saying I'm a Democrat. So,
Dan,
frankly,
Dan.
I was a registered Republican for my entire life, and I'm far more conservative than you are, sir. And it's very evident in my policies and in my plan.
Chris, can we just set the record straight here? Because we've got so much fake news. Dan ran on the Democratic platform. He ran with
I did not
Murphy.
run on the Democratic platform,
He
sir.
ran with Murphy. He supported Clinton. He sent a check in to Bernie Sanders, okay, and then was sworn in by a Democrat when he went on council. For him to say that he wasn't a Democrat is ingenuous. And that's the reason why he sued for defamation, because he is the king of fake news. He continues to publish fake news, he tells lies all the time, and he tries to justify it.
I would just like to know, what have I said in this campaign about you, sir, that's false? Was it the amnesty, Mr. Amnesty?
I think we need
Or
to
was it,
move on to the next
was it
question. How
that,
about
or,
Okay, let's wrap this up. We'll have lots of time for people to.
well, no, I'd like to know, was it the,
We'll
was it
get to
the,
it.
was it the amnesty program? Is that what you're upset about, that you're saying it's fake news? I would encourage everyone, I stand by everything I've
Let's-
released in
let's
this
wrap this up right now.
campaign, and I stand by all the literature that's been put out in this campaign, and I would challenge the prosecutor to look through that and to pick out something that's false and explain it to me right now,
Okay,
sir.
so we'll get back to that when we have a chance to, because otherwise it'll go on forever, and this isn't Facebook. One thing that we had touched about a little bit briefly before was about the school taxes. And I know that a lot of people don't understand that the town and the school are two separate entities. And a lot of times people complain to the town because they pay their taxes to the town, and then the town pays the taxes to the school, so they don't always understand that they're not the same entity. But what can you do in your position as mayor to help the Toms River School District with some of their financial issues that they are dealing with right now? Mr. Hill.
Well, I think we need to assist our schools as best we can in shared services, which has been mentioned already. But I also think we need to get our fair share from the state government. We have certain towns around this state that are smaller. Trenton and Camden come to mind. They have 11 and 12,000 students. Toms River Regional has 15,000 students. They receive more in state aid than the entire Toms River Regional budget. Now, this year, there's a $250 million excess in state revenues, and that should be returned to the school districts. It's criminal not to fund the Toms River Regional Schools. We're looking at losing 80 positions. Not only in the classroom is that going to be affected, we're looking at losing coaches, which is going to affect athlete safety. And we have a lot of student athletes that's the only way they get to college. And if we're going to be cutting back on classroom and extracurricular activities, we're going to be cheating our students. And we need to get our fair share from the state government, and we haven't been getting it. And it rests in Trenton. It's not in Toms River. We base our budgets on a flat fee from Trenton. We have not had an increase in municipal aid since I've been on the council. Matter of fact, we lost $4 million. We went from $12 million to $8 million. We budget based on the fact that we're going to get $8 million every year. Toms River Regional Schools bases their budget on the fact that they're going to get $67 million. They can't get 63.5, 64. It doesn't cut it, because you've got increased fees that you have to cover in the budget, and if you're losing it on the other end, now you got a double whammy. And with caps, you cannot recover that money. And what gets at risk is the student classroom, your activities, and it's the quality of the education.
Thank you. Mr. Rodrick.
I know all too well how these cuts are hurting our schools. I'm a teacher in Middletown, and we're under pressure as well. Frankly, the governor doesn't seem to care about our schools down here in Ocean and Monmouth County. He seems to care an awful lot about the schools up north over the Driscoll Bridge, but we continue to be cut year after year after year. I would like to be able to tell you that there's something that one of us would do that would convince the governor and Mr. Sweeney to give us some more aid, but frankly, I don't believe that that's going to happen. So we're going to have more shared services, and we're going to have to make sure we really tighten our belt at the municipal level. That means eliminate the fat. We talked about the 44 confidential appointments that Kelleher added. That's $5.5 million a year. Imagine if we could trim back a little of that and then make up for what the school is losing. I mean, we really could do those kind of things, but you have to have the courage and the guts. You have to have the guts to make those kind of cuts and to make those kind of decisions.
Thank you. Mr. Coronato.
I think that we really need to sit down with the Toms River schools, take a look at their entire budget, and to see where shared services can really occur. Not talk about it, but make it happen. I think it's in purchasing vehicles, taking a look at supplies, taking a look at maintenance, taking a look at anything that is done with the school system to be able to cut money, to be able to afford it. Look, do I think that we need to go to Trent and ask for more money? The answer is yes, but we can't depend on that, and we may not be successful. What we really need to do is put our heads together and find a way. The one thing I will say to you is this, that when I started Narcan, when I started any of my programs, when I put together a veterans program in the prosecutor's office, even when I did school security, it was all about one thing, money. And I had to find the money without putting it on the taxpayer's back. That's my intention to do here, is to work, to figure it out, get it done. That's why I want to be mayor.
Thank you. Okay, we're going to do rebuttals.
Yeah, I would like to know when the last time Joe has been to a council meeting, because Mo and I haven't seen him there for at least a year, and I've been going to meetings for 3 years consistently. So when is the next time you're going to come to a public meeting, sir?
Well, the way you conduct yourself at the council meetings, I don't think anybody should go to those council meetings, to be quite honestly with you. You're an embarrassment. okay? But then again, you are a Democrat.
But-
I will say this, I've been the county prosecutor, I've been out of politics, okay? My record speaks for itself,
Yes,
okay?
the amnesty
That's the-
speaks for
that's the
itself.
reason
The
why-
amnesty absolutely
if I
speaks for
can,
itself.
please.
That's your record, sir.
Let
The
him
amnesty.
finish, Mr.
Okay.
Rodrick.
Mr. Amnesty.
Okay. You know, you're the king of fake news.
And you are
Let me
Mr.
just-
Amnesty.
Let me just say
Mr.
this.
Amnesty, sir.
Okay. Let me
Mr.
just-
Amnesty.
Are you done? What? Let's let him finish. When he's
No,
finished,
go ahead, sir.
Let him finish.
Go
and then
ahead, but
when he-
every time you call me a Democrat, I'm going to point out that you gave 159 people amnesty.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Are you done?
Yes.
Okay. The point is this, okay, we need to produce. That's what I intend to do. You've been a committeeman now for over 2 years. Please tell me something that you have done other than produce fake news.
Okay, well, Mo and I worked together to get zoning changes north of Church Road, and you would know that if you came to a council meeting once in a while, but you haven't been to one since 2014, sir. So Mo and I worked very hard together, right, Mo, to get those changes made. And you would know that if you had come to a council meeting. In addition, we worked very hard to keep the budget flat now for 2 years in a row, sir, and you would know that if you came to a council meeting, or at least read a newspaper.
Okay, well, my response to that is the Ocean County prosecutor, I can't be political. I couldn't go to any council meeting. I'm prohibited to go for any council meeting, but you would certainly...
You haven't been a
understand
prosecutor
that-
for a year, sir, and you haven't been to a meeting.
Haven't
You
been.
haven't been the prosecutor for a while
Let him
now,
finish, please.
and you haven't been to a meeting.
Okay. But I am prohibited. I've got 6 months, I'm 6 months after becoming prosecutor in which I am supposed to stand down, something that you wouldn't do. Bottom line is
Not a
this,
single
is
member
that-
of your team has come either. You're running with 3 other
Mr. Rodrick,
individuals, and
please.
none of them have come either. I apologize. Sorry.
Thank you. Okay. Did you want to finish up, or we got to just move
No,
on?
look, he's going to talk over everybody. He's just a rude individual. Let's just move on.
Okay. Something that kind of gets missed in a lot of debates is job development. So I know it's not exactly a sexy topic, but how can we create more opportunities for employment in Toms River?
Well, thank you for asking that question. We have 2 redevelopment areas on the books right now. Downtown redevelopment, we've purchased the Red Carpet Inn, that's coming down. We also are in talks with the U.S. Post Office to move out to another redevelopment site we have at Cordina and Hooper Avenue. That's also being looked at by the VA. We're in the final stages of selection process. That VA clinic will be 60,000 square feet. It'll be 3 times the size of the present facility in Brick. There's going to be more services. That means more jobs, more high-end jobs. It's also going to mean a boost for our veterans, because right next door to this site are the Veterans Services Bureau for Ocean County and also the Ocean County Social Services. In addition, there are numerous banks in the area and facilities for them to shop. If the post office moves out there, again, that opens up the whole downtown area, and we have a clean palette to paint that and redevelop that with downtown boutique shops, restaurants, bars, some housing. We need people to be living downtown to make it viable, but I think both of these go hand in glove. If the VA comes in, the post office moves out, we have a perfect opportunity to finally redevelop downtown and make it like a Red Bank, where there's shops downtown and there are clubs downtown and people are going to want to come downtown. We're also going to be increasing the parking decks down there. That's all part of the redevelopment plan. Parking's always been a problem in Toms River. So I think all of these 2 redevelopment areas I'm very excited about, and as mayor, I would spearhead those 2.
Thank you. Mr. Rodrick.
Well, first, I'd like to say that everything east of Vaughan on Route 37 should be an economic redevelopment area as well. We should be offering tax abatements for business growth, not for more housing. I know a number of 30-year abatements were given for the apartments in North Dover. We don't need any more apartments. We don't need them anywhere in town. We need more business growth. 80% of the people in this town take the Parkway to work, 80%. There's just not enough room for more people. We need more jobs. And to do that, we have to offer tax abatements. The same way they did it for the housing, we should be doing it for businesses. All along Route 37, what's left to be developed on Route 9, Fisher Boulevard. We should cut a break to people who bring businesses to this community, and then they'll come here in droves, and they'll bring jobs with them, just like in other states, like the Carolinas. You see the growth down there, you see it in southern Florida. You have to incentivize positive growth. But if you incentivize apartments, you're going to get more of them, right? You need to incentivize business growth.
Thank you. Mr. Coronato.
I agree. I think what we really need to do is we need to, again, look at probably one of the biggest employers in Ocean County, which is the Joint Base. I think technology is the key here, and I think that we ought to look at the base, embrace Lakehurst, see what kind of technology that we can bring into Lakehurst, expand that base, expand the technology and the services that also supply services to Lakehurst. I think that we need to, again, also embrace the Ocean County Mall, make sure that they do a transformation there that they're in the process of doing now, and we ought to use that as a model to help the local businessman. It's important for us to keep the local businessman going and surviving. They supply the jobs, they supply the economy here. We can't forget about the small business.
Thank you. Anyone want to add anything? That one was a pretty generic question. Is everyone okay? Everyone's okay. All right, good. One issue that is kind of close to my heart, there's been, we talk a little bit about development and about affordable housing, but there's not really real, true affordable housing. And there is a homeless population. They might not be visible, but they're there. What can we do, or what would you do to address this issue?
Well, this year we've had a bipartisan effort on the town council with our Code Blue program. It was very successful. We were able to use our recreation center on Riverwood to provide housing and shelter during the cold winter months. We've also worked with a number of us on the council have met with several charitable groups with regard to homelessness. We're looking at several different areas where we may be able to assist in that venture, to provide homeless shelters, to provide housing for the homeless. But the Code Blue program is a model for the state. That's been highlighted on Channel 12. Paul Hulse and the group that he works with, Haven Beat the Street, did a marvelous job this year. I went out there several times. They had 25 to 30 people when we had the cold weather. It was much appreciated, and we took an underused facility and maximized the use of it. We were providing power and heat out there, and it was a win-win. And it was done in a bipartisan fashion, and I think we need to do that moving forward on the homeless issue. We can't make it a Democrat or Republican issue. It has to be done in a bipartisan manner to make any headway on that issue.
Thank you. Mr. Rodrick.
I supported the Code Blue program as well, and changing the temperature as well. When it's cold out, it's the Christian thing to do, to bring somebody in from the cold and give them a warm place to stay and give them something to eat. But I do not support a permanent homeless shelter in Toms River. I do believe it's a county issue. It's a county-wide problem, and the county is going to have to step up and help out with that. They certainly have the money to do it.
Thank you. Mr. Coronato.
I think that we need to form a partnership. I think that we need to get the religious organizations together. I think that we need to get the county, and I think that we need to get other related municipalities together at the table and figure this out. The one thing that we need to do is be able to solve the problem without putting it on the taxpayers' back. That's the bottom line. We need to come up with a solution to this. I think that we can. I think what we really need to do is, again, to make a difference in people's lives. The way we're going to do it is not just by doing it town by town. I think it has to be more of a regionally addressed, but I do think that we need service organizations and also the religious organizations in the county to step up to the plate, to partnership with government to make this happen.
Okay, thank you very much. Is there any rebuttal or anything anyone wants to add? So we're about to go to break, I believe. Is that right?
Okay.
Okay, thank you very much.
Okay.
Well, go ahead.
Yes, go on.
Rebuttal? I'm sorry, does someone have
Are
one?
we still live?
Yeah, we're still live.
Oh,
Okay. Oh, no, did anyone have a rebuttal? No one had anything to add? Okay. We will be back in about 8 minutes or so. We're going to talk about development, and we're going to talk about easing traffic. Thank you for being with us. We're at the Republican primary debate. I'm Chris Lundy, the news editor of Toms River Times and Jersey Shore Online. Thanks.
Good evening. Welcome to the Senator Ray Show. Tonight's show is going to be about art. and art how it's taught at Kane University, which is not looking at admiring a Van Gogh, Starry Night, the great Mona Lisa, a work of art by Picasso. Those are very admirable, and we can learn from that. But Dr. Amoroso, who teaches at Kane University, takes art one step beyond that and teaches his students to bring out their individual passions, their feelings through the use of art. Welcome back to the Senator Ray Show. And today's guests, who will be talking about how art is taught at Kane University, and we have Dr. Joseph Amarino. I apologize for je m'excuse, je prie de tu m'excuser.
I'm the worst person with names.
Okay,
Senator, so
it's not Amoroso, Amarino.
Yes,
okay,
thank
and
you.
one of your prize students, but all your students are prized.
That's true.
I spoke about them earlier, about their enthusiasm, not only about their talent, but their interest and their enthusiasm when I was there to speak before them. And we have one of your students here, Chris Brandon. Chris, welcome.
Nice to meet you.
Welcome.
Thank you for having me.
And Dr. Amarino. So will you talk to and explain to me again, because I learned for the first time, and explain to our audience how your approach to art is not the typical way students and folks like me think about art in terms of the great Picassos and Rembrandts and all, but you have a unique way of teaching art.
Right.
Talk to us about it.
Thank you. Well, essentially, our program is a what we could classify as a psychology-based approach. And by that I mean what we do is we help students access the way they made art as preschoolers, which means they are getting back to their natural way of operation with creative intelligence.
Welcome to the Toms River Show. Pat O'Melia here. You're a concerned Toms River resident. You don't have a coffee like I do. Kind of lukewarm, which is pretty good for me because normally it's cold by the time I get to drink it. Don't forget all the stuff on the website and Twitter. If you got issues in Toms River, Ocean County, get in touch with me. Toms River, they just approved the municipal budget. It is flat. And everybody's patting themselves on the back. It is not flat. That's why I have a problem with school boards and the county and the municipalities collecting. If you get your tax bill, it's got the school, it's got the county, it's got the municipal taxes. The mayors of these municipalities can only control what they control. But when you get the tax bill, not many people are sitting there breaking it down. They're just looking at the bottom line and they blame the mayor. The school taxes are going up, so your tax bill isn't flat. That answers the problem. And school is such a huge part of your property taxes. For that matter, out of the files of, are you effing kidding me, the Toms River Regional actually had to postpone a vote on giving raises to supervisors. There are 4 supervisors, as I understand it. And between the 4 supervisors, their pay as it is right now comes out to $736,738. $736,000 a year. That's not counting the benefits. That's just to pay. And they were looking for a bump of $21,000 a year. This, after the cuts, the $2.8 million in cuts, they're talking about raises. Now, surprisingly, embarrassment set in, so we really shouldn't do this with all the problems we have. You're right. How stupid. You know, this should have been just postponed. Should have been wiped. But hence lies the problem here. You're almost $750,000 just in salary, mind you, for these 4 supervisors. welcome to the Shore Show. I'm Pat O'Melia, and as you can see, we're filming live on the boardwalk in Seaside Heights, where you should be. Beautiful day. Come down for a day trip, overnight, weekend, stay longer. Seaside Heights fits into any budget, and there's a ton of attractions down here in Seaside Heights. And my guests are from the Ocean County Library, Katie McKnight, Scott Brown. Oh man, I'm usually not good with names, but those were easy names, not the tough ones I usually get. Ocean County Library, we had some of your gang on over the years. They gave me a little stuffed animal. You're a mascot for the library. I was going to use him yesterday in a commercial we were shooting, but I didn't think everybody would know what it would look at. Why this guy got a dinosaur on his desk?
That's Sparks the Dragon.
But
The dragon.
first off,
Sparks the Dragon.
What's his name? Puff?
Sparks.
What? Actually, I think I was forced to donate money to get him, now that I'm thinking about it. It was something like a $10 donation. But we got him in the studio. He's kind of like our mascot. So, Katie, what do you do at the Ocean County Library?
I'm the Youth Services Coordinator. I'm a children's librarian, and I help coordinate all the children's librarians and the services for the children throughout the county.
And we got a couple of young guys, Danny and Frank. They're working the summers here in Seaside Heights.
Yep.
Pretty cool job to work the boardwalk and beach in Seaside Heights. Now, where do you guys go to school?
We both go to Toms River North, right over the bridge.
I'm not even sure where the school is. Is that over? I'm going over 37, over the bridge.
Yep. Yeah. You go all the way down to like Old Freehold-ish, and then you make a right, and it's right.
Big school?
Yep. Good school. Big one.
Yeah. You play football there? You're a big guy.
Nah, we both play lacrosse. Yeah.
That's a big sport. Now, Jim Brown, one of the greatest football players of all time, was a big lacrosse fan.
Yep. He was.
Now, my guest, well, the name is an institution here in Seaside Heights on the boardwalk. Danny Maruca.
Dominic.
Yes,
Maruca. How are you? It's good to see you
Dominic
again.
Maruca, brother of one of my buddies, Maria Maruca.
Yes.
I don't know, we see Maria, so she isn't scheduled to be in here. I know we spoke to her. Great gal. You know, another institution in Seaside Heights, Maria.
My brother Joe, I have a twin brother Joseph also.
Yeah. You're all in that pizzeria?
Yeah, we all work together.
Now, you've hit the ups and the downs on the boardwalk.
Yeah, pretty much, yeah, with the storm and the fire.
You're going up right now.
Knock on wood. We're getting there, yeah, one day at a time.
Now, once this is on, we're going to publish it to YouTube, live stream.
Okay.
We're back. Hi, once again, we're back with the Republican primary debate. My name is Chris Lundy. I'm the news editor of the Toms River Times and Jersey Shore Online. I'm here with Councilman Maurice Hill, Councilman Daniel Rodrick, and former Ocean County Prosecutor Joseph Coronato. We've talked about a lot of issues so far about Toms River, and we're going to continue with issues such as traffic and development. So, without further ado, development is quite a big issue in town. Mostly in the northern area where there's a lot of big developments, big neighborhoods being put in. I would like to see the mayoral candidates address the issue of development and what their plans are to address overdevelopment. And we will start with Mr. Hill.
Okay, first let's set the stage on what's causing the overdevelopment. Toms River's had 3 rounds of COA right now. First 2 rounds we had 1,737 units, 35 units, arbitrarily assigned by COA and the New Jersey courts. We had no say in that. There's no appeal. The 3rd round, the figures they came up with first were 2,400 units. We said no. We went to a court mediation, and we wound up with 1,285 units. Altogether, it's over 3,000 units of affordable housing. That's what's driving the housing boom in northern section of town. Nothing else. It's COA. What have we done to fight this? We're looking at buying open space. We've already purchased 70 acres. We preserved the last horse farm in Toms River. We're also looking at, with our master plan change, as I said, we've changed the zone on the highway corridor from Route 9 from North Maple down to Garden State Park with a highway business, which does not allow residential development. The problem is the COA program. Nobody's been able to cogently explain how they place the units and the burdens on the different towns. Our planners and our council have fought this, and said that where the affordable units should be is where the jobs are and where the transportation infrastructure will provide for the increased development. That's not the case in Toms River. Route 9 hasn't changed since I was in high school. It's still a one-lane highway connecting the two biggest towns in New Jersey. Route 88 going from Brick to Lakewood is another example of a one-lane highway connecting, again, two of the larger towns in the state of New Jersey. Those three towns are in the top 20 in population, and it's all driven by COA and overdevelopment from the state.
Okay, and just to clarify some of the information, COA stands for the Council on Affordable
On
Housing.
Affordable
For
Housing.
people who don't know all the lingo, it's a quasi-governmental group that, in response to a lawsuit many years ago in the town of Mount Laurel, basically the state said that the town of Mount Laurel was exclusively zoning for only rich people, so that and the result of that was that every town in the state now had to put aside a certain number of development, a certain number of units as affordable.
Chris, that was, again, the zoning in Mount Laurel with 3-acre zoning. We have everything from R40 to R800 in this town. So I would argue with the state of New Jersey that if anything, we're an inclusive town, not an exclusive town.
And
So
also-
I don't know why we get burdened with these numbers. They've never explained how they arrive at the numbers. They publish them and that's it.
I'm
And
under
you're
the
stuck.
impression that the senior community is not counted in that count up.
No, the affordable units, there are a certain amount of senior units you have, it has to be distributed. But there are senior affordable units, we have a lot in town that are 100% affordable, but where you don't have 100% affordable, it's a 20% set aside. So if you're building 100 homes, you're only going to realize 20 affordable units. And when you've got a burden of 3,000 units, it drives the number of units in the town that have to be built. Good news is, until 2025, we have met our quota. Everything is either been planned, approved, or under construction.
Thank you. Mr. Rodrick?
Well, it's my understanding now we negotiate with Fair Share, correct? COA, Mo, is gone.
Fair Share is one element in COA. They have a representative group, but COA makes the ultimate decision.
Well, when our township sat down and negotiated that plan, Jay Lynch had a plan in place when he was negotiating. He knew where every unit was. He knew what every developer was going to be, where to zone. I mean, so this was very much negotiated. And when you look at the kind of money that developers contribute to political campaigns and engineers and things of that nature, and you recognize just how much money is involved here, it starts to make you wonder why we're zoning the way we're zoning and why we're agreeing to the 4th largest low-income housing number in the state of New Jersey. It was the 4th largest. We're not the 4th largest town. And when I asked that question prior to being elected at a council meeting, I was told that, well, it could have been worse. Well, on top of agreeing to that number, in addition, we gave all kinds of subsidies for that. So let's say we were given that number and we were not too keen on doing that, right? Would we have given tax abatements for it? Would we have given HUD block grant development money for it? We wouldn't have done those things unless the township was interested in seeing that being developed. And this is very much a zoning issue. We need people on council and in the mayor's office that are going to hold the line when it comes to this and keep our zoning as is or eliminate all multifamily housing zoning. I tried to do that. I couldn't get anybody's support. Now I have a group of folks running with me who are steadfast against this, and they're going to help me to eliminate all the multifamily zoning in town.
Mr. Coronato?
Well, both Mo and Dan have been on council, and obviously they haven't succeeded. The bottom line is this: if I'm elected mayor, and I will be elected mayor, okay, we're going to address it. I raised my family here in Toms River. It's a special way of life here in Toms River. I intend to protect it. I think the way you protect it is, I'm a law and order guy. I believe in zoning. You're going to hold fast to your zoning, and you're going to improve your zoning. We need to make sure that our roads are wide enough. We need to make sure that we don't have narrow streets so that buses and trucks can't get up and down them. We need to make sure that we don't have zero lot line coverage. Bottom line is that we need to look at our zoning, take a look at our zoning, follow the law, and make sure that we don't have any multifamily housing anymore in Toms River.
Do we get a rebuttal?
Yes, I'd like to
Can I,
rebut.
may
No,
Let him
I'd like to
Go ahead, you go first. Go ahead, Mo, I'm sorry.
First of all, Dan's figures are out to lunch again. Toms River Council does not control HUD funding. The money that went into low-income housing, which was senior-only post-Sandy, came from HUD CDBG funds. CDBG funds can only be used in low-income areas. In addition, it was managed by New Jersey Home Mortgage Finance Agency, again, which is specifically for low income. The pilots that Dan talked about were only for low-income senior housing, which there are no school children, so it didn't affect the school budget. Dan's figures are simply inaccurate. And I would call Joe out on the fact that he has no municipal experience. So he's talking about widening roads. Joe, we're going to widen Route 9. Unless you have a magic wand, it hasn't happened in 30 years. So I take umbrage when we start blaming the council for the overdevelopment. The blame is squarely with the state of New Jersey, COA, and the liberal court system. Well, if you assigned affordable housing where it makes sense, Dan made the quote that 80% of the people are on the road. All right, then why are we building affordable housing where there aren't any jobs?
Exactly.
Why don't we build affordable housing where there are jobs? That's a state issue. And I disagree with Dan. There is very little that the township can do. When they put these numbers on you, that's it. You're done. And I will tell you that going into 2025, if anybody wants to put any more affordable housing in Toms River, they'll have to do it over my dead body.
Let me also define another term that you use when you refer to pilot programs.
Yes.
Payment in
lieu of taxes. But what happens there is the municipality still gets their taxes, but the county and the school system don't get a tax cut of that money. Now, if there's a senior development, there is no net gain in the school to any children. So if you're going to do a pilot, again, which is part of the funding coming from the federal government, it has no net impact on the school system.
The fact remains, when it came time to give out the pilots to incentivize the development that wouldn't have been built without the incentives, Mo voted for those incentives. And the fact also remains that Joe Coronato fought for a lot of those developers and represented developers at both Cox Crow Crossing and Riverwood Chase. And his entire campaign is being funded by developers and engineers. It's got an awful lot of money.
I feel like you need to show your work, as my daughter's math teacher would tell me.
As far as that's NJELAC. You can go there and you can see what engineers contributed and what developers contributed, and it's right there.
If I can respond, Dan.
Would you like me to mention some of the developers?
Let Mr. Coronato.
Are we done, Dan?
No, go ahead. I'm sorry. Yes, go ahead.
First off, the question is, I did represent two developers. One was my brother-in-law back in 1985 who did 14 lots on Whitefield Road, okay? The second one was in 1994, which was Cox Crow Crossing. The bottom line is, I haven't represented any developer since then. I've been the prosecutor for the last 6 years, and for them to come in and say that as an attorney, I had some sort of representation where I was representing developers is bogus. Typical fake news, Dan.
Well, it's not really fake news, sir. You're taking money from developers and from engineers. You've raised about $100,000. A ton of that money comes from engineers and developers, and it's a fact that you've represented developers and that you were a land use attorney prior to going to the prosecutor's office. These are facts, sir. I know you want to call them fake news, but they are facts, sir. Facts.
See, Dan,
facts, sir. You represented...
Let's go with Mr. Coronato first and then Mr. Hill.
Okay. Dan, you're right. I was a land use attorney. I represented the planning board attorney.
So it's not fake news.
I represented the planning board in Bricktown. I represented the planning board in Lavalette. I represented the planning board in Little Lake Harbor. I represented the Board of Adjustment in Stafford Township.
But you're
I was a land use expert on the board side.
But you're into development.
The answer is no. The answer is no, Dan. Let's be honest. For once, can you tell the truth, Dan? Is it impossible for you to tell the truth?
How much money have you taken from engineers, Joe? How much money?
Dan, look, let's talk about who I represent.
How much money have you taken from engineers and developers,
Mr.
sir? How
Rodrick,
much?
let him speak. It's
How
his
much?
turn.
Are you done, Dan?
Not really, no. Not until you tell me how much you've
Chris,
taken.
let's just wait until he gets done spewing all his lies, and then when we have an opportunity,
It's on
I'll
NJE
respond.
Elect. You can go there and
Okay.
look yourself.
And I agree with them. Why don't you go check and see exactly who has financed my campaign?
You should.
I'm okay, it's open. The bottom line is this, I was a board attorney. I represented very few developers, and I haven't represented any developers in the last 10 years.
Thank you.
I'd like to disagree with Joe.
Okay.
Joe was a major land use in this town for 20 years. I've opened the board results. He has literally thousands of site plan approvals with variances. And he was the lead attorney on Cox Crow Crossing, which is the second largest development in the northern section of town. It started out as 250 units, it's now up to 295 units. It's Riverwood Chase, it's the Willows, it's Cox Crow Crossing. So Joe, when Joe talks about overdevelopment, he's one of the reasons that there's overdevelopment in the northern section of Tom's River.
Well,
You're just not telling the truth, Joe. I mean, listen, I don't want to interrupt you, but that's a fact. And you can look at the previous planning board and zoning board. Joe was one of the major land use attorneys in Tom's River. That's a fact. That's not fiction.
Chris, let's make it clear, okay? I did represent Cox Crow Crossing back
Thank
in
you, Joe.
1994.
So it's not
okay?
fake news?
Okay, but I haven't represented them in the last 10 years, and when I did land use, I represented small homeowners. I did variances for people for decks, fences, and for all those things. I wasn't representing any large developers. They want to make me into something I was not. The bottom line, did I do land use? Yes, I was a land use expert. That's why I think I understand how we can control the zoning and how we can do it legally. These two gentlemen have no idea. They're clueless.
Well, you
Joe-
just flipped what
Joe-
you said, sir. You just
Joe,
completely
you had
contradicted what you said.
another 15-acre development off of North Bay where you clustered 15 homes into half-acre lots in an area where it was an R400.
What's the name of
And you
that
can
one?
cluster.
That development?
It never happened
It never
because
happened.
we purchased the land.
The county just purchased
Oh,
it
I
to
see.
prevent the development.
To prevent
But
the
Joe got
development.
the approvals. So, the facts are that Joe's a land use attorney. That's what he did before he became a prosecutor. That's a fact. I'm sorry, Joe, you can't walk away from your record. That's a fact.
think
And, if you want, all you have to do is look at the
I
planning board.
I understand,
All you have to do is look at
Mr.
the
Hill,
planning
saying
board
that
and
he
zoning
has been
board things.
on the zoning board, he's been on the planning board. he's
I
been
have
the
not been
master
on the
plan for-
zoning board.
He's on the planning
I was on
board
the
and the
planning
master
board for
plan
2
for 15
years.
years.
I'm a school teacher. I haven't done anything like that at all. Just a teacher.
Okay, we've wrapped that one. We're good?
I think so.
Moving on? All right. To dovetail into that, there is a lot of traffic in town. There's some very difficult spots. Sometimes it can take you a good 20 to 30 minutes to get from one section of town to another. I understand part of that is state roads, and you're barking up the wrong tree if you're trying to change state roads. But what can you do realistically to ease traffic in Tom's River?
That's not an easy answer to that, because the main north-south road is a state highway, Route 9, which is a single lane. What's happened now is that you have traffic diverted onto Whitesville Road, which used to be residential, onto Old Freehold Road, onto New Hampshire. They're taking county roads where state roads should be picking up the main feeder population on traffic. Another thing is we've been waiting for the mom line forever, and that will not happen in my lifetime.
No.
One suggestion I'd like them to consider, though, is that there is still an active Conrail line that runs from the base at Lakehurst through Lakewood into Farmingdale and connects up in Red Bank. And I think that could be in place of a mom line, you might be able to consider rail traffic to at least get you up to Red Bank, where you could get into the city from the North Jersey coastline. You could they have siding rights on that rail link, that Conrail link. They can do sidings. They could have trains going northbound and southbound on one track with the siding. And you could run the trains at rush hour, and that would alleviate some of the traffic. If you go to the Parkway now, it's bumper to bumper at 6 and 7 in the morning because we don't have jobs. So there's a job deficit in this town and in this county. But as far as getting people to do anything on the state roads, the first year I was on the council, we had a meeting with Mayor Brush. It was Governor McGreevey. We met with the NJDOT. I had a staffer tell me on an off-the-cuff remark that We get more votes paving a mile of road in North Jersey than we do anything in South Jersey. And I about decked them. But that's the fact. The only roads they're going to do anything for down in our neck of the woods are running from the Parkway to the beach. 37, 72, 70, but it's only taking them to the beach. It's not addressing the people who live in these communities.
Good. Okay. Mr. Rodrick.
Well, we do live in New Jersey, and we're going to have quite a bit of traffic. It's just comes with the territory, right? As far as rail service is concerned, I don't think there would be demand for it. If there were, I'm sure NJ Transit would extend the lines down to Toms River, but we only have 90,000 people living in Toms River, and frankly, I don't think they're going to bring a line on for that amount of commuters. I'm not sure why it doesn't go all the way down, but I'm willing to venture a guess that it's because we don't have the demand for it. You know, we should be working to keep our roads nice. I mean, I've been walking around town, and there are a lot of areas, but these are on like a 25-year cycle. But when you're spending $5.5 million maintaining an entourage of 44 confidential appointments, that creates an issue as far as getting road projects done. And that's probably why we're on a 25-year cycle, is we're dumping a lot of money into things that we shouldn't, when we should be focusing on maintaining the roads. Joe Vicari and I were the only two voices that were pressuring the state down on Route 166. We were in the news several times. After applying pressure, we got them to open it up. It's not fully complete yet, and I don't expect it to be anytime soon, but I'm going to continue to pressure them. So we have to continue to keep pressure on the state to make sure they're maintaining their roads, and the county making sure they maintain their roads. I mean, I pressured the county to make sure they repaved Kettle Creek Road after they ripped it all up. It took them about 3 months, which is a whole lot quicker than it took Route 166. But again, we need to recognize that we do live in New Jersey.
Mr. Coronato.
Well, I was the chamber president about 15 years ago, almost 20 years ago, and at that time they were looking to possibly expand or improve Route 9, and we could see in the last 20 years that hasn't happened. If you take a look at Main Street, the 166, and you look how the state improved that, and I think everybody would question how they improved it and the amount of money that they spent. For us to depend on the state to do anything in Ocean County is ridiculous. I'm not going to spend my 4 years as mayor, okay, depending on the state to do anything here. I think the only chance that we have to improve the roadway is to have an honest and heartwarming and definitely a tough conversation with the county, to partner with the county, do shared services, come up with a program that's going to improve some of the county roads and some of the local roads so that we can coordinate better. That's the only way that we're going to get out of this. And if we're going to depend on the state, we're going to be here another 20 years saying that we have traffic here in Toms River, and how we're going to handle that.
I got a chance to look at the contract for Route 166 and 37. It's 350 pages, and let me tell you, it is riveting stuff. I recommend that you all three of you read it.
Did you read all 350 pages?
I skimmed. Yeah, I got the Cliff's Notes version. It's dense stuff, but it's interesting that there's some language in that the state has not held to that contract. So that's interesting. Anyone want to make any more comments or rebuttals on this issue before we move on?
I think we
Mr.
need to investigate the possibility of rail service. That line runs through Toms River. It's at the border of Jackson. It runs through Lakewood. You've got two towns that have almost 100,000 people in them. And then it goes up through Farmingdale and Red Bank. So there might, in fact, be an opportunity to have rail service that's effective. It used to, when I was a child, down here, that was an active rail link. It carried passengers. Now all it does is it's Conrail for the base, basically. But there are several rail links. There's a rail link that you pass over on 37 that connects up to that same linkage. So you could do light rail up there. You could do a number of things. They did light rail from Camden to Trenton. Why can't they do something in Ocean County?
The Democrats in Trenton don't like us.
Well, that's all right, but
they're not going to give us free money.
It's still worth keep going.
And
keep trying.
NJ Transit is nearly broke. I mean, NJ Transit, they're always suffering. I mean, they don't have the demand. How many trains do you see go by without people on them? You know, so I don't think we'll ever get it, but it sounds like a nice idea for sure, Mo.
If you're not going to get a mom line.
That's for sure. Mr. Rodrick, you had brought up a statistic a couple times. I want to see where this came from. The I want to say it was $4.4 million on appointments.
5.5 million, all in, on 44 confidential appointments.
What are these appointments,
They're non-bargaining staff members.
such as?
Give you an example, in the clerk's office, the assistant clerk, or our secretary for the council. He's non-bargaining. He's considered a confidential
Okay,
appointment.
so everybody who doesn't have a bargaining unit, that's not, right, okay.
Right.
Would some of these be necessary positions, though? I mean, we're
Well,
not,
no,
we're
no,
not rice
that-
noticing them or anything. but-
I was very clear, we need to do an operational audit.
Okay,
And I guarantee you, there's fat to be cut.
okay.
Take a walk down the town hall one day, prior to 4 o'clock, go inside. We can do better in Tom's River, that's for sure.
Want to clarify some of that. We have a question that came in from some of the business community, actually. Some of the businesses on Route 37 are concerned that some of the police are a little bit too, shall we say, stringent on pulling people over, that they might be a little bit too ticket-heavy, and that they feel, the business owners, I'm saying, feel that that is impacting their business. So I don't know if you wanted to address that.
Well, I think public safety trumps business,
Yeah.
okay? If you're speeding on Route 37, that's got 6 lanes, 3 in each direction, then I think the police officers need to maintain public safety. I don't see what that has to do with business. And I would defer to Chief Little. I think he does an excellent job, and his officers do an excellent job. And if you're speeding, you should be pulled over and ticketed. I don't know what that has to do with business. I mean, that to me, rings hollow. Again, your police officers are there for protection of the public, and if they see somebody speeding or making an unsafe traffic maneuver, by all means, they should be pulling them over and ticketing them.
I think we just need to make Tom's River businesses more competitive by offering them tax incentives to grow their business in town. We need to reduce the property tax burden. I don't think speeding by is the problem here. I think we need to get people shopping in the area again. Make them more competitive, make them be able to offer services and goods for better prices. And we could do that by reducing their tax burden. As far as policing is concerned, I think we have a great chief. I don't have any statistics that would show that somehow people are going too fast over there, so I don't want to comment on that part.
Well, because, I mean, of course, I believe in law and order. I think our police department does a great job. But that being said, I do think that maybe we need to take a look, speak to Chief Little, and have a better conversation with the business community to see what their concerns are, to see whether or not there's some sort of middle ground that can be approached here. Businesses need to thrive, but at the same time, law enforcement needs to do its job. I think to have open conversations and a relationship with the business community, maybe we need to improve that. I'll have to take a look at that, but I think that's important. There's always 2 sides to the coin.
Okay. Anybody want to offer a rebuttal or anything? That was a pretty calm question. So for the first time in a while, there's actual Democrats on the governing body. What is your opinion for working bipartisanly going forward? And who knows how this election is going to shake out?
Well, I firmly believe, after being on the council for 2 terms as a ward councilman, 2 terms at large, that the only place government functions efficiently is at the local level. You get somewhat at the county level. When you get to the state, forget it. And when you get to the federal government, it's even worse. The higher up the food chain you get, the less you get accomplished. I think everybody that's on that board, on that council, whether they're Democrat or Republican, is working in the best interest of the town. And it behooves us to work across party lines. We did, the Code Blue was a bipartisan evolution with the council. And it was absolutely the right thing to do. I mean, if you went out there and saw the people that were in our Code Blue shelter, there's no way you could expect them to live in a tent or in a sleeping bag when the temperature was 0. We did the absolute right thing. As a matter of fact, we're the ones who suggested that the temperature be raised to 32. It was 32 if it was
35.
freezing. 30. Well, it was 30. We want
Okay.
to raise it to 35. It was 32 if it was sunny, and 25 if there was, or the other way around.
Something like
25
that,
if
yeah.
it was sunny, and 32 if there was precipitation.
That's
I
right.
don't know, when I went to school, 32 was 32, freezing's freezing. So it made no sense. And again, that was the Toms River Council in a bipartisan manner that brought that forward to the state senators. I think Senator Singer is the one who's introducing the legislation. But the Code Blue was absolutely an example of bipartisan working among the council. I think it's a very positive, like I said, it's a model for the state.
I'll work with anybody to put an end to the overdevelopment in North Dover and anywhere else in town, and I'll work with anyone to make sure that we improve business climate, cut taxes, and improve services.
I can only say this, I watched what happened the other night on council meetings between the councilmen, the argument they came, it was an embarrassment as far as I'm concerned. What really needs to happen here is that we do need to cooperate, we need to work together, but I will tell you this, Chris, I'm not going to compromise my values. My values are dear to me. I want to make a difference, okay? To me, I want to lower taxes. I want to maintain the quality of life here in Toms River, and I think that we need to be able to execute and do things. I'm a person that gets things done. I'm not going to let anybody stand in my way. I'm going to get it done.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, Mayor?
Sure.
I know Joe said that it was an embarrassment, the council meeting. I think that's a little shot at me, but Joe,
No, it was
just
a big shot. It was a big
before
shot.
you said you weren't at the council meeting and that you haven't been to one and you're conflicted and you haven't been there, you haven't seen it, and now all of a sudden you've seen it. Did you see it in the news? Is that where you saw it, Joe? And frankly, when it comes to standing up for the rights of the people in this community and putting a stop to overdevelopment, yes, I will argue with whoever I have to argue with, whether that's you or Lori Hurick or whomever. But the mayor specifically said that there was no plan, and I brought in documentation that there was. He specifically called me out in the news and said that this was untrue, and I brought in proof that it was. We cannot allow development on Sibagagi, sir. We cannot. And if it's an emotional issue, it should be.
I just would ask Joe, if he said he can't do anything for 6 months, why was he politicking for the mayor's position? I mean, if he said he couldn't do anything for
Very good
6
point.
months and he was in the prosecutor's office till November, why is he campaigning in March and April for the mayor position? Wouldn't that preclude that?
No.
I guess not.
You done well?
Well, you're the one said you couldn't do anything for 6 months,
I
but
told-
yet you're running for office in about 3.5, 4 months.
October 6th is when I left the office. My 6 months was over March 6th. Bottom line is this.
And you still haven't come
Okay.
to a council meeting, Joe.
Bottom line is this.
Still haven't gotten to one,
Okay, let him finish,
nor have any
please.
of your running mates.
Let's just deal with the Sibagagi. I've been the
Well, how about
prosecutor.
we first
Mr. Rodrick, let
deal
him
with whether
finish,
you're going to come to a
please.
meeting?
Okay.
I'd love for you to come to a meeting, Joe. We have a bunch of them left this year. You should come down, see what happens there.
Mr. Rodrick, please.
I apologize. I
Thank
do.
you.
He really doesn't want to apologize. Bottom line is this, okay? Let's go with the Sibagagi. I've been a prosecutor for just about 6 years, okay? I have no intentions, no discussions about developing Sibagagi. It's a Superfund site. It can't be developed. It's not going to be developed. They can argue as much as they want. If I become mayor, you have my word, okay? A person who's been around for 45 years, been the prosecutor, we are not developing Sibagagi. It's done, it's over, it's finished. I don't want to hear about it anymore.
It's in the master plan, Joe.
Well,
It's in
we're
the-
gonna change the
It's in the
master
master plan. It needs to be changed, and that's why we were arguing. So if you think that that's an embarrassment, sir, you're an embarrassment. And you were handpicked by George Gilmore, and Gilmore represents Jack Morris. And Jack Morris is in the email chain. You should read the newspaper once in a while, sir.
So Dan,
You
let's
should
get-
read the newspaper once in a while. And when I said that to the Asbury Park Press, that you were handpicked and given the line because I did not support the development of Sibagagi, and they called you for comment, you declined comment, sir. You had to first check with George Gilmore. That's what you had to do first, sir. And now...
Let's not
that-
put words into his mouth. Let
Well,
him
no,
discuss things.
this is a
He
debate.
does
I have
that all
my-
the time. That's okay. You let him continue because that's what he does.
You've
That's how he
taken
is.
so much money from developers and engineers, sir. I don't know how you could possibly say that you're going to stop overdevelopment. I don't know how you could say that with a straight face, Joe. I really don't. And you contradict yourself on a constant basis here. Mo's caught you 3 times. I've caught you 3 times.
All right.
Is Dan done?
I was a land use attorney. I wasn't a land
hope
use
so. I have to
attorney.
get home
I
someplace.
was a land. I wasn't. Which
Okay.
is it, Joe?
Okay.
Which is it?
Are you done, Dan?
I'm totally finished. Go ahead.
Okay.
Tell us again how you're not going to develop Sibagagi. Promise us, because I really don't want to see it be done. But frankly, I want to stop it.
I got to put my kid to bed at some point, so.
Are you done, Dan?
Totally, Joe. You going to give amnesty again? Sir?
Dan is being sued for defamation.
You gave
He's being
amnesty
sued-
to
he's being
159
sued for-
welfare frauds, sir.
Okay, hey, let him finish.
You
We're
gave
doing
amnesty to
closing
159
arguments soon
welfare
anyway, so
frauds, sir.
let's,
Dan is being sued for
Amnesty,
defamation.
sir. Amnesty.
Dan is being sued
Amnesty
for
by the
defamation.
Democrats, sir. The
Mr.
Democrats.
Rodrick, come on, let's,
It's in his nature. He can't help himself. He just is a
Oh, if you're
constant
gonna,
liar. The defamation
Joe,
suit
you've lied
was
3
filed
times
against.
up here.
It's the defamation suit that has been filed against Dan.
by the
okay?
Democrats?
Yeah, and guess who he's hired to represent him? George Gilmore.
I didn't hire anybody. You're
George
such a
Gil-
liar.
George
I didn't hire
Gilmore
anybody, sir.
represents Dan in those defamation suits.
That is such
All
a
right,
Who has
lie.
a business
Can I-
relationship?
let's get
I've never
Mr.
hired
Hill in
anybody,
here.
sir.
Can I say something?
I've never hired anybody,
please.
sir.
There's only one person not being sued in this election.
Give yourself a little time with the Democrats. They'll be after you, too.
I mean, my opponents have lawsuits, both of them have lawsuits. I don't have anything.
okay, we're gonna start going into our closing statements. So we might as well wrap this up. If we're all good, we're, okay. Mr. Hill, if you would like to begin your, oh, and let me just say that there's not gonna be any time for rebuttals in the closing statements, but I will ask you to keep things above belt so that there won't be a need to rebut. Thank you.
Well, I think tonight we got a good example of what this campaign's been like. There are two campaigns that are throwing shade at each other, back and forth with negativity. Me and my group have been positive. We maintained a positive message all the way through. We can back it up with facts, with what we've already accomplished. There's only one group, there's only one slate that's running on honesty and integrity and commitment to service to the community and to country, and that's on row D, column D. They can't say that on the other columns. We've seen tonight an example of how two people that are being sued, and we all filled out disclosure statements when we screened, and I'm surprised that the candidates that were selected has a pending lawsuit. There's only one group that's clean in this campaign, and that stayed clean and stayed on positive message. We have not raised the taxes in 3 years. We have preserved open space. We've preserved the horse farm. We've changed the master plan to do away with residential development on Route 9 corridor in the northern section of town. There's only one person here that's been to Trenton rallies twice. That's me.
I was with you, sir.
You were there once, Dan. Joe's never been there.
Never.
And I have a vested interest. I have 2 daughters that live in this area. One daughter is a teacher and four grandchildren in the school system. I'm committed to getting that money refunded to the schools by hook or crook. We've got to get it done. There's no ifs, ands, or buts. There's no way around this. There's no shared services that's going to save us coming into the next year. We've got to get the money back. Our legislators are working. We need to keep up the pressure on Senator Sweeney and Governor Murphy. But I want to emphasize again, you saw a little bit tonight about what's been going on in this whole campaign with people throwing accusations back and forth. There's only one slate that hasn't thrown accusations and has pointed to positive messages, and that's column D.
Thank you. Mr. Rodrick.
Well, you know, I think Mo is a great person. I like him personally, but he has a very bad record on taxes and development. In 16 years, Mo was voted to raise taxes 13 times, nearly tripling municipal property taxes, and he voted not only for the development plans, but also to incentivize them. I don't think ill of him personally. I think he's a great guy. I just don't think he'll be a great candidate in November, where whoever faces off against Jonathan Petro, okay, is going to be facing a candidate that has an awful lot of money and an awful lot of support behind him. You're going to need somebody who's going to hit the ground running, knock on doors, talk to residents. Everybody in this community has met me, and they know where I stand on these issues. Joe, I admire his work as a prosecutor to a certain extent, with the exception of the Lakewood amnesty stuff. But before that, he was a land use attorney fighting for developers. How is he going to convince the electorate in the general that he is worthy of being mayor? Development is the #1 issue. So I believe I have a very consistent record of being in opposition to it, and I'm going to continue to fight hard, and I hope to have your support in the primary on Tuesday.
Thank you. Mr. Coronato.
Thank
To
you,
be the
Chris.
anchor.
I do respect Mo, but I think that he's been on the council for almost 15 years now, and I think he continues to kick the can down the road. I think Dan is Democrat Dan. He lives on fake news. An example is the amnesty. I think we need to clear that up right from the very beginning. Amnesty was granted by the state. I had nothing to do with amnesty.
Are you saying
That whole-
NJ 1015 is
Please, Dan,
blank?
please,
Aw,
Dan,
come
let's
on.
be
It's in the
civil
paper.
for once in your life.
It's in the
Try to be
newspaper,
civil.
Joe. It's in
Well,
the
you
newspaper.
can't believe the newspapers that you produce.
It's in
Dan,
NJ 1015, sir.
Well,
Mr. Rodrick, please.
Okay.
Thank you.
I'm sorry. Go ahead, Mr. Amnesty.
Amnesty was not granted by me. None of those forms ever came to me. It was done by the state controller. We did a joint project with the FBI. He doesn't complain about the FBI giving amnesty. He can't complain about the prosecutors giving amnesty because guess what? We didn't. I indicted 20 individuals. The FBI indicted 4, went through the U.S. Attorney's Office. Nobody has been given PTI. None of those cases have been dismissed. We did that investigation and arrested those people in October and November of 2017. They were indicted in July and August of 2018. Nothing has been signed off by me. I left the office. It's the new prosecutor who's controlling those 20 cases. Those 20 people who appear on his literature were indicted by my office. Again, more fake news by Democratic Dan. Bottom line is this, I want to get things done. The reason why I want to be your mayor is because I want to make a difference every single day that I'm there. It's important that we protect the quality of life. It's important that we lower our taxes, and I'm going to get it done. I'm not going to kick the can down the road. I believe in term limits. I know every day is an important day, and I'm going to make a difference. If you don't want somebody who's going to work hard, somebody who's going to make a difference, don't vote for me. If you want the status quo, don't vote for me. But if you want to change, if you want some money saved, and if you want to make a difference, that's the vote. Column A, the team A, all the way. Thank you.
Lakewood Joe.
We actually have a little bit more time, so we will actually have one more question, even though we had a little bit of a conclusion. Now, throughout this night, I've been asking you, what are you going to do if you win? Now, here's the question. What are you going to do if you lose the primary? Are you going to run as an independent? Are you going to support the person who wins? What is your goal after Tuesday?
I don't think you can run as an independent if you're running in a Republican primary.
You can't.
You can't do it. So I will retire, my wife, watch my grandson play sports, my granddaughter play sports, and rake leaves. I mean, I'm done. I was not running for another term on the council. I agree with Joe, term limits. I served 2 terms as a Ward 3, 2 terms at large. For me, it was mayor or nothing. And I think I have the leadership skills, the experience, and the knowledge in municipal government to be the next mayor of this town and to lead the town forward. I disagree with Joe. Joe has no municipal experience. He keeps citing the prosecutor job, but that's not municipal government. So he does not know what he talks about. I think I have the knowledge to lead this town forward.
Mr. Rodrick.
Well, I haven't made a plan. I intend to win. Our ticket is going to win. We have very good polling that shows we're going to win. The electorate is behind us. They're very concerned about the development. I haven't given it much thought. And as far as Joe calling me a Democrat, I mean, he's done this several times.
It's true.
It's
true.
Asked,
It's true.
You
It's
asked
true,
me
Dan.
to run with you, and I refused.
I never asked you to
Oh,
run.
come
That's
on,
another
Joe.
lie. Why would I
Joe,
ask a Democrat to run? Somebody who
Joe, you're no reformer. You're no reformer.
my
You're handpicked
God.
by George
didn't
Gilmore.
ask you to come to
You're
run.
handpicked by George Gilmore, sir. You're Gilmore. Gilmore made
All
your
right,
entire
all right.
career, sir.
I don't want to run with either one of them, okay?
Well, at least we're having fun, right?
It's been a great time.
I guess you can wrap it up.
Chris, I'm going to win. I truly believe I'm going to win, but I will tell you this, I'm a Republican, okay? I'm going to support the Republican team. I'm going to
A Republican wouldn't give amnesty, sir.
I will support the Republican up and down the line. I'm a Republican, always will be a Republican. I'm a loyal Republican.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Republican wouldn't give amnesty.
I hope you enjoyed this Republican primary debate as much as we did. Believe it or not, time has flown by so quickly because we are having fun. Thank you to Councilman Maurice Hill, Councilman Daniel Rodrick, former prosecutor Joseph Coronato. I have been Chris Lundy, the news editor for Toms River Times and Jersey Shore Online, and I believe we're signing off. Thank you for watching.